everybody. Welcome to another edition of 108 Inches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, Motor City Madmouth. Johnny Mac, I know you've been waiting patiently. Unfortunately, Danny Gallagher, we're going to have to postpone him a little. He's having a few technical difficulties, but we will bring him back as soon as we possibly can. Meanwhile, this is what we have tonight, and we have an incredible group as always. We have Bigfoot. Barry, glad to have you back on again.
Howdy, howdy.
And we have my Uncle Warren Brewstar, who's a star in many, many ways.
Good evening, everybody.
And lastly, not least, we have the Candy Woman. So
I'm pinch hitting today for Danny, okay?
Yeah, she is pinch hitting.
Put me in, Coach. I'm ready to play.
All right, you'll be ready to play, ready to talk, and we'll keep that going from there. Meanwhile, we had a busy day at the Miami Hurricanes Media Day. I had about 12 interviews in about 2 hours, and I tell you, by the end of this thing, my voice was gone. Thankfully, I had a few hours to recover. So, hey, Freebird, good evening night. We appreciate it. And speaking of which, Cameron Gorby sent me a note here about everything that took place and everything going on. Cam, glad we're working together another year. Well, we have a lot to get to. The Hall of Fame obviously just happened last week, but I want to talk initially about the most controversial Hall of Fame snubs. You have Kurt Schilling, dominant pitcher, characters. Oh, yeah, does he ever. Barry Bonds, all-time home run king, PED allegations. Roger Clemens, 354 wins, 7 Cy Youngs, PEDs. Pete Rose, all-time hits leader, banned. We all know what that was for gambling. Shoeless Joe Jackson, 356 career average, Black Sox scandal. Then you have Thurman Munson, Yankees legend, career cut short. Yeah, that was too bad about Munson. I think he was on his way to the Hall of Fame. Lou Whitaker, sabermetric darling. He should be in there as well. And then Keith Hernandez. So, all right, Barry, let's size up the Hall of Fame snubs.
Well, you named some good ones, but you also could put in Sammy Sosa. You know, he was a PED guy. Albert Bell's another one. You know, he had a little bit of a shortened career, but he was a very feared player when he was playing. He was one of the top RBI guys in baseball. I think the biggest snubs though probably are Clemens. It's basically the PED guys. They got snubbed. Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. And so you named a good group. I don't think you mentioned Sheffield. He's another guy that's on that borderline. And I look at Sheffield when I was coaching against him, that was a guy you did not want to face. I mean, so you look at those guys that you say were they Hall of Fame quality. He definitely a Hall of Fame quality guy, but he brought some controversy with him as well. And Schilling should be in the Hall of Fame. He's caused his own problems with political stuff he said and things, and the writers just don't cotton to that very well. But there's quite a few guys that could be Hall of Famers, and they might get voted in later on with the Veterans Committee.
And Eddie Prather talks about Don Mattingly should be in before Jeff Kent. I really can't debate that one. All right, Warren, go ahead.
Well, the one thing I think a majority of those guys have in common is they didn't get along with the press, and that's their major problem. If you don't get along with the press, you got one strike against you already, so you're going to lose a lot of votes. And you need 75% to get in, and you can't afford to lose. Some of those guys, especially borderline guys. Because to me, the guy that stands out, the two guys that stand out for me the most are Whitaker and Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez was by far the best defensive first baseman when we played. And, as far as a hitter, I couldn't get him out. He was one guy I hated to face. There weren't too many of them, and he was one. He hit a line. It didn't matter what I threw up there. It was a line drive coming off his bat.
Well, you know what? I'm going to throw Mickey Lolage's name into the mix, too.
Right.
There's a guy who ate up a lot of innings. And by the way, now that Skubal has been shipped to, and we'll talk about Tarik later, it's been to Los Angeles. I think the Detroit Tigers better get it figured out. And Mickey Lolage's number 29 should be retired. Why it's not, to me, is anybody's guess. We'll probably bring that up at a later date. But Mickey Lolage 29 should be retired. But I think Mickey Lolage belongs in the conversation. Candy?
I think the Hall of Fame, yes, it's Hall of Famers, but it's also part of the history of baseball. And how do you talk about the history without talking about some of these? Now, I get maybe not in the main wing, have a special ward for some of these, But how do you not talk? I mean, for a long time I've said I don't. Some of these shouldn't be in, but A-Rod, Lou Whitaker. I mean, some of these guys have played really well. Barry Bonds. I mean, how do you leave some of those? Shoeless Joe Jackson, Kenny Lofton. How do you leave all those people off? Um, they were part of the history, and yeah, every player is part of history, but they made significant contributions to the game. And so I think there should be a special wing. Like, we've been to the Hall of Fame, Scott. You took me there. So grateful. What an honor. It's a great place to go visit. If you have not been, it should be on everybody's bucket list. But there are spots that they could easily put them, and they just haven't. So it'll be interesting to see
All
what
right,
keeps
so
happening.
Marty Jones. I think actually Warren Broussard and Barry, for that matter, will be the best two more qualified to answer your question. Was Steve Carlton overrated? We'll start with you, Warren.
Oh no, no,
I don't think so.
not
Either.
at all. He struggled at the end of his career. He stayed too long, that's for sure. But as
Right.
far as when he was in his prime, he was the best pitcher in the National League. I mean, he won 3 Cy Youngs. And when you win 27 games and the team wins 58, that's a record, a percentage of wins for a team in one season. That nobody's going to match that. That's a record that will. There's a lot of records in baseball that'll never be broken, and that's one. I don't think he was over. And Barry was a catcher. Barry caught him, so he knows better than I do because he saw it coming out of his hand
Well, go
and
ahead,
hit
Barry.
off him.
No, lefty was one of the greats. He probably one of the easily top 5 left-handers in the history of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you probably can narrow it down more than that. But he was great. He was an interesting guy, and he was actually a good teammate. He was just he was different. He was a different kind of guy. But I tell you, he was a man's man. He was. If you'd want him in your foxhole with you.
Oh yes,
he was a real man, and a lot of people didn't realize how he was a hard worker. He was really worked.
Yeah,
not many guys could keep up with his work schedule,
No.
and I don't think he ever ran, did he, Bruce?
No,
He said it was hereditary. He wasn't a runner, but
he said it was hereditary. His father didn't run, so he's not going to run.
There you go, and he didn't cover first either.
No.
Well, I definitely think he's overrated. I'm going to go back to what Uncle Warren said. He went 27 games on your team's 50 plus games. No way, no way. But I guess the only way I'll be connected to him is when I couldn't get Steve Carlton. Then I went after Von Hayes, and he was traded for a lot of players. And he turned out to be a pretty good interview. If Plan A isn't going to work, better to have a good Plan B, and Von Hayes was mine. So let's continue the theme. Okay, we'll talk about the Barry Bonds story for a moment. July 24th of 64, Barry Bonds is born. Of course, he's one of the snubs. That's why he carries over very nicely to this topic. He played 22 games for the Pirates and the Giants from 86 to 2007. And obviously on June 4th of 86, he gets his first home run. He finished his career with 2,935 hits, 1996 RBI, 2,227 runs, and a 298, 444, 607 slash line. Let me continue. April 27th, Barry Bonds hits his 300th home run. April 17th, 2001, he hits number 500 and goes deep. June 23rd, 2003, he gets his 500 base, steals his 500 base, so he got a stolen base in that. He set the single season home run record with 73 in 2001. Sorry, folks, I think there's an asterisk should be there, while also posting a record of 863 slugging percentage. And then on May 18th, 2001, Barry Bonds hits 3 home runs to continue the narrative with 762 home runs, 514 stolen bases. Bonds remains the only player in MLB history to reach 500 homers and 500 steals. And then, of course, May 30th, 2001, Barry Bonds passes Willie McCovey and Ted Williams. And May 28th, 2006, Barry Bonds hits home run number 715. Barry Bonds obviously won a record 7 NL MVP awards, earned 14 All-Star selections, 8 Gold Gloves, 12 Silver Slugger, and 2 batting titles. May 1st, 2000, he records his first splash hit in McCovey Cove, and he holds the MLB career records: 762 home runs, 2,558 walks. Now that's a pretty good accomplishment to walk that many times. And there you have it. So, hey, listen, if we're going to talk snubs, I want to make sure I gave it all to you with every number. I wonder how many people actually went out there and could keep up with me. But I'll tell you what, I'm done giving stats, and now it's up to Barry to go ahead and give me your thoughts about Barry Bonds.
I think the stats speak for themselves. You know, obviously,
Right.
there's a very good, strong case. I don't think he was ever formally found guilty of PEDs, but it's pretty obvious that he was doing something. And but you know, as far as statistics and what kind of player he is, you know, he's a top 5 guy ever in the game of baseball. And he was a Hall of Famer before the alleged use of PEDs. He'd already won 3 MVPs before he allegedly started using steroids. So I'm not a big fan of him as a person, but he was a great player.
You know what? I'm not a great fan of him as a person. I saw the Giants and the Marlins, and I was at the game where, obviously, in the playoffs, and I didn't want to talk to Barry Bonds because, you said, Uncle Warren, he didn't like the press. Heck with him. I'll just go ahead and get doses of champagne in the waiting locker room. So I said no to Barry Bonds, and heck, to the Marlins. That was pretty good stuff. But what are your thoughts about him in his totality? And obviously, do you still feel, Warren, that he belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Oh yeah, without question. You know, I mean, the all-time home run leader should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. You know,
Yeah.
and he had some definite issues with the press. There's no question about that. He wasn't the best of interviews. You know, and I think he was brought up that way. His father was the same way. Did you play with? Did you play with Bobby?
I played against him, but I didn't play
You
with
didn't
him.
play with him. He was in Chicago for a while,
Yeah.
and yeah, he was a very surly dude, you know. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But the thing I like the most about Barry, not only the numbers that you read off, but they have splash hits up on the board in right field and at the ballpark at San Francisco. Splash hits for hitting the ball in the Cove. Well, I don't know what the number is now. It's 100, probably 100 something. And he hit like 80 of them. Nobody else hit. Nobody else could hit. Just Skrimsky hit a few. And they had a few left-handed hitters that hit 1 or 2 here and there, but he hit the majority of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a great ball player, without question.
Candy?
He's recognized as an all-around player. He received a record 7 National League Most Valuable Player awards, 12 Silver Slugger awards, 14 All-Star selections. Holds MLB hitting records, including most home runs, career home runs, most home runs in a single season, most walks, intentional walks in a career season and in consecutive games. His defensive play in the outfield, he won 8 Gold Glove awards. He also has 514 stolen bases, becoming the first and only MLB player to date with at least 500 home runs and 500 stolen bases. Yes, he's had a controversial career, but he definitely had quite the career, quite the accomplishments in baseball.
See, I was more impressed with what he did on the front end of his career with the Pirates when he was hitting home runs and stealing bases, and it was on the back end of his career. Because that's when he showed you both sides of power and the speed.
Right.
After that, and me being a media guy, don't treat us badly or we're going to keep you out for sure. So another great list that I really love, and these lists are great, especially with you and Uncle Warren and Barry. And here's one that really doesn't get a lot of recognition. We're giving it tonight. It's the most feared pinch hitters of all time. Here's the list. You got Manny Mota, the Dodgers all-time leader in pinch hits. Smokey Burgess, legendary clutch pinch hitter. Gates Brown of the Tigers. Then you have Jerry Lynch of the Reds and the Pirates. John Vanderwall, the Giants and the Rockies. Mark Sweeney of the Padres and the Giants. Rusty Staub of the Mets. And Matt Stairs. Another guy I could add to that list would be Lenny Harris, a great pinch hitter as well. So what are your thoughts, Barry, about the list of pinch hitters?
That's a good list. No question about it. Stairs, I think he hit 23 pinch hit home runs. Unbelievable. But in our playing time, Manny Mota would be on that list. He was one of the best pinch hitters. But that's a good list. They all very accomplished. I played with a guy named Jose Morales with the Montreal Expos. He was a great pinch hitter as well.
Okay, what about you, Uncle Warren?
Well, I played also with two great pinch hitters. Greg Gross and Adele Unser. They both had times in their careers where they were everyday players. But in 1980, they came up with some of the biggest hits. Adele Unser in Game 5, we were behind in the top of the ninth. Max Schmidt was on first, and Adele Unser pulled the ball inside the first baseline down the right field corner, and Schmidt scored on it to put us ahead. And I mean, it was, I think it was runners at first and third or first and second, whatever it was. But Smitty came sliding across the plate, and that was huge. That won the game for us. Had that not happened, we would have lost. We would have been going home down 3-2. And Greg Gross came up numerous times in the 1980 season and came up. They both came up huge, and the big advantage was they were both left-handed hitters.
Candy?
So career pinch hit leaders. Lenny Harris leads with 212 pinch hits in 804 at bats. Mark Sweeney 175. Manny Mota 150. Most pinch hit home runs. Matt Stairs with 23. Most pinch hit grand slams. Rich Reese, Willie McCovey, and Ron Northey with 3 each.
Okay. All right, interesting. All right, let's continue on here. We're going to talk about a spring training park. But my two pals and legends here obviously have some ties to it. From March 16th, 2003 to March 8th, there was a 109-game sellout streak at the City of Palms Park. The stadium's capacity is 8,000. On March 30, 2009, a crowd of 8,278 attended to watch the Red Sox beat the Tigers. All right, well, let's go over some of the players that obviously played there and trained at the City of the Palms Park. You have Pedro Martinez, Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez was there, and and played his first game in New York, Yankees against the Red Sox at the City of the Palms Park. Pretty interesting names. In 1989, the Red Sox began their own rookie league team in the Gulf Coast League, playing first in Winter Haven, then moved to the City of Palms Park in Fort Myers. They moved their location in 2012, and in 2021, the Florida Complex League. Florida Southwestern State College has used the stadium for their college baseball games since 2014. The stadium also hosted numerous concerts for its acts like Avenged Sevenfold, Hollywood Undead, and Daughtry. The City of Palms Baseball Stadium opened in 1993 in Fort Myers, Florida. It served as the Boston Red Sox home from its opening in 2011, and it's set to begin demolition actually June 1st of 2026. So it's being demolished this summer. So, all right, Barry, you have some memories there. Please share them with us.
They have their own facilities. They're also in Fort Myers. So it's it's a storied facility. It's a shame that it's being torn down, but I'm sure it'll be a better facility and better for the players in the long run.
Well, Hammond Stadium is where they're at now, and Candy and I have been there a couple times. It's a really cool place as well. And Fenway South is just Fenway South. It was really a really good place. Candy?
Yeah, Scott, we were just talking about ballparks earlier.
57. Barry, your thoughts about Pablo Lopez?
He's brilliant. His parents are both doctors, I think, and he was going to be a doctor, chose to play baseball. So I mean, I think they called him Mr. Google when he was he with the Marlins? Was that where he was with at that time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said because he could answer any question that came up. So, from that standpoint, but yeah, you can't, if you lose a pitcher, it's hard to replace him. A guy who's been, quality pitcher, it's very hard to replace him.
Warren?
Well, Minnesota's slowly gotten back into the race because they struggled at the beginning. They were, I believe, at one point about 10 games under. and missing a guy like that, he was instrumental in their rotation last year. He had a very, very good year. I believe he had an ERA about 2.7, something like that. So, and he ate up a lot of innings. So that's a big hole in their rotation. That's tough to recover from. You just hope you have somebody down in the minor league system that can come in and semi plug that hole. But it's too bad. I mean, it's something that they can't afford to lose. Minnesota's struggling to get players on the field as it is, quality players, and lose somebody like him it really hurts your rotation.
Yeah, well, that's true. Candy.
Anytime you lose one of your, especially starting pitchers, and he's not a youngster, he's not like a young prospect. He's a veteran at this point. It hurts. It definitely hurts, especially teams that don't have the payroll and the backups like the Dodgers do. So it definitely hurts. And Scott, I know you've talked to Pablo. Great guy. Yeah, too bad. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but like you say, they're still in it. One game back, the wild card, and one game back in that division. It's for the taking. And that's despite losing Pablo, who, in my opinion, is an old school type of pitcher that can pitch a lot of innings. I hope he gets better, and because the Twins will even be better. And we'll go over some of their moves later on as we continue to incorporate these trade deadlines as well. Let's continue on. On August 21st, 1987, Dale Murphy hits his 300th home run. Dale Murphy, quite the player, Barry.
Oh yeah, a lot of people forget. He's a two-time MVP. He's one of those guys that are on the borderline of being a Hall of Famer. But he ended up being a good defensive center fielder. A lot of people probably don't realize he started off his career as a catcher. He had the yips behind the plate, couldn't throw the ball to second base. We played a spring training game against them when he was just a young kid. He came up throwing and hit the pitcher in the back. So that was, but it was a great move for him. He went to center field, ended up being he wasn't the fastest center fielder, obviously, but he was a good defensive center fielder and really a tough out. He was a tough guy because he hit a lot of balls right center. And the guys that do that when they're right-handed hitters they're sometimes tough to pitch to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Go ahead, Warren.
Yeah, I mean, because in our era, you didn't see a lot of guys hitting the ball the other way. Everybody wanted to pull everything, and he was a great hitter. He used the whole ballpark. He didn't just pull the ball. He was a very, very classic hitter. I played against him starting in the minor leagues. He was in Greenwood when I was in Rocky Mount. And the Carolina League and Western Carolina League played an interlocking schedule that year because there was only 4 teams in each league. So I got to know him early in his career. I believe he was only 19 years old at the time. And you could see he was head and shoulders above everybody. He was one of the top players in the league. And Dick Ruthven told me a story about him, like you said, Barry. He threw the ball. He was throwing the ball down to second base, and he said, Ruthven said it hit the rubber and bounced straight up in the air. He said, "Whoa." And so the pitchers were aware early that when he threw the ball down to second base, heads up, you can't take your eye off the ball.
Yeah.
Hey, Candy.
So, Scott, I'm going to refer to the chat room because I want to make sure that Warren saw this. Sure. I didn't even realize I was in the company of Warren Brewstar. I grew up 15 minutes from Veterans Stadium, so this is so cool for me. Warren, for sure, is a Philadelphia fan favorite of us, Philly fans. So thanks for the memories, Mr. Brewstar.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Smarty Jones, just to make you feel anything good, this guy's on every Monday night, so you get to chat with Warren Brewstar. You're the guy that you obviously have great respect for. I love the guy anyways. He's like an uncle to me anyway. That's why I'm in and out of here with Uncle Warren. Warren, I don't know. It depends on how quickly my mind is motoring and all that business. So no, I know Barry has missed some umpire stuff. I really feel bad. So, I couldn't help by bringing this one up here. So get this, everybody, people. Joe West ejects not one, but 2 cameramen, people. When did it happen? The incident occurs at Shea Stadium. West ejects the cameraman after they allow the Mets to review replays of a controversial play that happened at home plate. In the play, UB Brooks was called out. Mets ended up beating the Braves 3-1. Replays ahead of its time? I think so. What do you think there, Barry and Joe West? I had to get this in. I know how badly you go out there and
Well,
miss these umpire things.
yeah, well, Joe, I'm gonna go easy on Joe since he's a North Carolina guy like I am.
Okay.
He was a football star in college.
Right.
He was a quarterback at Elon College. I think back then it was college. And I like Joe early in his career. I like Joe off the field, but Joe got to thinking he was part of the show. You know, Cowboy Joe, he was a singer off the field. He got a little bit, kind of maybe a little too big for his britches, but all in all, he was a pretty good umpire overall. But he did have a quick eject button if you said the wrong things to him. But obviously he was pretty good. I think he ended up umpiring more games than anybody in history at the major league level. But yeah, he had a quick eject button.
What about you, Uncle Warren? You going to be hard on him? You going to be easy on him?
I got to be easy on him. He was a good umpire. And when I was in the minor leagues in Spartanburg, my first year in the Western Carolina League, we were playing the Charleston Pirates in Spartanburg, and Joe West was umpiring the bases. And he missed a call that Larry Sherry didn't care for. Larry Sherry proceeded to walk from the third base coach's box. Joe was back behind first base, and our bullpen was right there. And Larry walked across the field, and started screaming at him and yelling him every word in the book you could think of. Took 2 steps, turned around and yelled at him some more. Took 2 more steps. This took 10 minutes. He screamed out, and Joe West never said a word. He just stood there and took it. And I was really impressed for an umpire because he didn't throw him out. He didn't say a word back to him. He just let Larry have his say, and Larry went back to third base coach's box, and the game went on. It was a classic, yeah. But he was a good umpire, But he did, like Barry said, as time went on, he thought he was more of the show than the players, than the game was. He was bigger than the game.
Yeah, and you really can't do that either. That's for sure.
No.
All right, Candy.
Yeah, he missed a close play at home plate, incorrectly calling a Braves runner safe. The TV crew showed a replay of the obvious blown call on the monitors inside the Mets dugout. At the time, MLB rules strictly prohibited teams from viewing television replays inside the dugout during the game. Seeing that the Mets coaching staff viewing his mistake, West marched over and banished the 2 camera operators from the field. Threw them out. No big deal, he said.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Let's face it. Nowadays, we have replay cameras. Everybody's filming things. It's so obvious. And with these cameras these days, how they can zoom in and you can really see if there's calls are right or wrong. Back then, you didn't have that. And they didn't use it at the time. So, do I get it? Do I think it was a little bit harsh, considering I'm normally one of these people behind the camera? Yeah, I think it was a little harsh. But I get it.
Well, I'll just say this. He was ahead of his time. All right, for those of you just joining us, I'd like to bring everybody up to speed. We've talked about City of Palms Stadium. Obviously, that's being demolished soon. We've talked about Joe West moments ago. Dale Murphy, we talked about it, right, everybody? We talked about Dale. We've talked about the most controversial Hall of Fame snubs, pinch hitters, Barry Bonds, and we talked about Pablo Lopez. Let's continue the narrative because here's some more baseball history, everybody. Is on September 30th, 1984, Mike Witt throws a perfect game. Were either of you there for that one? Because obviously it was during your time.
I was not, but one of our teammates, I believe, caught that game. Bob Boone, I believe.
Right, he did. Yeah, you're right. Yes, he did.
So I did see some of that game on replay, but I do remember it because Booney was the catcher.
And it was the last day of the season.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because, and you remember how the last day of the season you were fined $50 if you took a strike. To get the game over. If you weren't in contention, you wanted to get the game over with as fast. But I mean, he had the threw a perfect game. More power to him. And he also had a combined no hitter with Mark Langston when he was with the Mariners.
Huh.
Or the Angels, one or the other.
Yeah.
Hey, Candy.
It was September 30th, 1984, the final day of the regular season. The score: California Angels 1, Texas Rangers 0. Pitches thrown 94, strikeouts 10. Attendance only 8,375. Time of game, and this is what I found extremely interesting. 1 hour and 49 minutes only. That was before we had the pitch clock and all those things that right now that we have to shorten the. But it was the 11th perfect game in Major League Baseball history. It remains the only season-ending regular season perfect game in MLB history.
Okay. Well, I have some positive news that I want to pass.
Probably that way off the field now.
Go ahead, Warren.
Yeah, he was a great player, without question. Definitely very, very worthy of a Hall of Fame election, and was just had Minnesota going. At times where they'd made the playoffs, where they were, small payroll team. He led them, and never went anywhere else. I believe he played 17, 18 years there. And he's a fan favorite, and he will be, and he's a Minnesota institution without question.
Candy.
So he was a three-sport athlete: football, basketball, baseball. He became the only person ever named USA Today's High School Player of the Year in 2 different sports. Football in 2000, baseball in 2001. He played quarterback in football. He passed for 5,541 yards, 73 touchdowns, led his team to 2 straight state championship games, winning the title his junior year. He accepted a scholarship to play quarterback at FSU before opting for baseball. He batted .605 during his senior year and hit a home run in 7 consecutive games. He was selected number 1 overall by his hometown Minnesota Twins. He also played basketball. He was a point guard and a 2-time All-State selection. He averaged 20 points per game over his final 2 high school seasons in basketball. So he obviously was a very athletic star athlete in different sports. He got to pick which one he wanted to play in. He obviously chose baseball. Not a bad choice after his career. It was all said and done.
Yeah, I think this career decision he made was really well. Let's talk about another great pitching accomplishment. Everybody knows how good Greg Maddux was. Get this, he faced 20,421 batters in his illustrious career. Only 133 people saw a 3-0 count. That to me is, I don't even know what kind of a stat that is, Barry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure the ones that went 3-0 is because he was trying to pitch around them or something, because he could throw it in a teacup anytime he wanted to. So, and that was back when they had the 19 to 20 inch plate when those guys were pitching. They painted the corner and then they got a couple inches off of it, maybe 3, maybe 4. So yeah, but he was an amazing pitcher, and obviously I think we've talked about it before, how smart he was on the mound, what a student of the game he was.
Uncle Warren.
Well, he just he was the consummate pitcher. He could add and subtract on his fastball. He had, there was more in the tank there. He was 91, 92 when he needed it. He'd get ahead, and if he needed to strike somebody out, here came his top fastball. But he relied on
walks. And he lost the strike zone only 133 times, which is 0.65% of the batters he faced. Actually, did he unintentionally get to the 3-0 count?
No, either way, Candy, I have a great stat and you padded it. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so that's good, and that's a compliment. I got some pretty backhanded compliments today over at the Miami Hurricanes from Coach Shannon Dawson. It was pretty cool. This guy was unbelievable. I was wearing a Mario Andretti shirt over there, and and I was doing it to kibit because we didn't get Mario Cristobal, and he remarked about NASCAR. We were just joking around about it, and then I hammered him with some three haymaker questions. But yeah, we didn't get a Mario Cristobal. I'd wear the Mario Andretti one. All right, well, I'll tell you what. We've talked about Trevor Bauer from time to time, but Trevor Bauer says he had a done deal with the Phillies, but MLB blocked it. Obviously, there's only one word to describe that, and that's blackball, Barry.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind he's blackballed. He has been his own worst enemy in a lot of ways, but he never was found guilty of anything. He was accused of stuff. I just think that baseball, and I'll be honest with you, I hope he wins $1 billion from him. I hope he sues. I think he's waiting to sue him until he knows he's not going to get a job again.
Right.
And I hope he wins. I think they've been wrong with him. He's an easy guy to dislike, but I actually follow him on YouTube a lot now. And I watch him and I listen to him. He understands pitching. And he's he's a little bit too deep. It makes it a little bit too complicated. But I like the guy from the standpoint of, I just don't think it's right what they did to him. And they definitely have blackballed him because he throws good enough to get big league hitters out now. And he's sitting, he's sitting in Mexico now pitching again.
Yeah, what do you think about, he has an agent named Rachel Luba who's done a really, really good job standing by him. Rachel's really done a whale of a job, but the problem is what doomed him was social media, and you cannot continuously criticize MLB because that's what's happened is they'll keep you out, and they've done that. Right. Uncle Warren, take it from there.
Yeah, well, he shot himself in the foot without question. There's been controversy wherever he's gone. He definitely knows how to pitch, and he was very successful doing it. He was a great pitcher. Everybody in baseball wanted him at one point, but then his off the field antics caught up with him. Whether it was, who's to know, but which is basically none of our business. But baseball blackballed him for it.
Yeah.
And he's, like Barry said, he shoots himself in the foot by the statements he makes. It's a shame. But the thing I don't understand is he and Garrett Cole were both teammates at UCLA, and they never got along. And to me, Garrett Cole, has been around the game. His brother-in-law is Brandon Crawford from the Giants. They married sisters. So Garrett Cole gets along with everybody, and he and Trevor Bauer never got along. So I've always questioned, and then here the things that Trevor Bauer has come up with is just, he definitely beats to a different drummer.
Okay, Candy.
Obviously, the charges were never even filed. Yes, he was accused, but charges were never filed. So, it's too bad that he was exiled like he was. Whether what he was accused of was actually happened, that's not for us to decide, not for us to discuss. Was he a good pitcher? Yes. So it is sad that he last pitched. He has played in Japan and Mexico and has had 7 starts earlier this season, but he has not made it back to the major leagues. Time will tell if that will ever happen or not.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? This is what our featured topic is, and here it is. The Tigers and the Dodgers completed a trade on Saturday night, late Saturday night. Tarik Skubal goes to L.A. The Tigers get, obviously, Skubal, 2-time Cy Young Award winner. The Tigers get outfielders Zahir Hope, who's the number 5 prospect in L.A. system. Right-handed pitcher River Ryan. How do you like that for a pair of names? River Ryan. Okay. And then we have right-handed pitcher Brady Smith, the number 17 prospect. Okay, Barry, how do you size up that trade?
Well, I think, for me, I said it from the get-go this season, they should have traded him when they had full leverage rather than waiting until, the All-Star break or waiting until the trade deadline. I don't know. They got one kid, the outfielder, looks like he's a bona fide prospect. He's got 23 home runs, I think, right now, 80 RBIs. He's gotten better as his career has gone along, and he's still young. The pitcher got drafted, I think, in the third round and had a Tommy John surgery real early in his pro career, has just been coming back. He's 0-10 in his pro career so far, but that's coming off Tommy John surgery. The other kid's a big league pitcher. I think he's in the big leagues when he got traded, but he's 27. I just wonder if you don't wait too long. If you know you can't sign the guy, is it better to trade him early or wait till the trade deadline? That's the only thing. They don't have anybody. They didn't get anybody who's going to make an immediate difference, I don't think, in their lineup. So we'll see how it plays out. You never know. The young pitcher might come around. He's only 21, I think. So he could come around. Pitchers are a hard one to figure out. And obviously, I think he's got good stuff. I looked at his scouting reports on him, and it looks like he has viable stuff. We'll see.
Hey, Uncle Warren.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing. They talked about it. The trade rumors have been swirling about Skubal for a while. Ever since last year. So it was pretty much a chance of, when was it going to happen? When were they going to pull the trigger and make the trade? And like Barry said, I think they waited too long because he did have arthroscopic surgery in May, and they found some loose bodies in his elbow. Had they done that in spring training, I think they would have got more suitors and more better players for them. Because teams are trying to set their rosters and they've got some expendable players. And your scouts have seen guys, especially in spring training, because you can go to the complexes and see these kids play. And I think they could have done better, But the Dodgers were one of the organizations that had people in the farm system that were lucrative to making trades. So they, and that's where the Dodgers were the talk about where he was going. They were in New York, one or the other.
Right.
And they find Dodgers were able to pull him off. And are they going to sign him? He's out of, he's a free agent at the end of the year. So, that's another thing. So he could just be a rental, and he could go right back to Detroit or go back wherever he wants to play.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And we're going to talk more about Tarik Skubal at a later date. I have a lot of other stuff, and there's no way I could do the show without at least talking about the trade for sure. Candy?
I think as far as did they do it at the right time? I think they got less because he had surgery during the season than they would have gotten last season. Am I happy that he went to the Dodgers? No. Were my Milwaukee Brewers in the running? They were, but the problem is my Brewers have gotten their success off their young prospects and their young talent. So to get him, they would have had to give up their top prospect, and they weren't willing to do that. And that's why he is now a Dodger and not a Brewer, because the Brewers could have afforded him, and they said that, but they weren't willing to give up their farm system to get him. So here we sit again, Dodgers with all these arms, and some of these arms have been sitting because they've been injured again like they did last year, so they're getting rest, and they'll be maybe raring to go come playoff time.
And don't worry, the Tigers and Dodgers will be playing each other in Detroit later this month. I'll get to that in a later show as well. But that leads us to the big question. Did the Dodgers cause an MLB lockout? It's one thing we talked about Kyle Tucker to begin with, and now we can add this to the mix, Barry. Kyle Tucker, the deferred contract, now you get Tarik Skubal. Another reason for the owners to get pissed and make sure we keep this game shut down.
Well, one of the rumors on the internet is that there's a conspiracy among the owners to let the Dodgers get him because that gives them more clout in what they're saying about, we need to do something about a salary cap, things of that nature. I don't see how they can sign him, really. I mean, he's going to be at least a $40 million a year guy. Right. And you add that. So, I think that's probably some of the reasoning behind maybe them letting it. I mean, that's the conspiracy theory talking. But, yeah, I think it's going to add a lot of fuel to the fire of of a salary cap. But like we said, if you got a salary cap, you got to have a floor as well. You got to make these small market teams, allow these small market teams somehow to share in revenues so that they can compete on salaries. Otherwise, I don't know how you don't have a lockout and lose a lot of this season coming up. I just don't see it.
Yeah, well, I mean that obviously. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, now here I am, executive producer of this show. We already talked about Kyle Tucker, right? Knowing that no deferred contracts, and now the Skubal thing takes on a new meaning to only pad what we already figured, right, Uncle Warren?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that just adds fuel to the fire. And the one thing I saw today was, a lot of these contracts are deferred payments. So they're, like Otani's got it's deferred. And so even if they do figure out a ceiling and all that, and figure out some way to get a cap, there's still going to be a lot of deferred payments in a lot of these players that have signed these huge contracts. I mean, it's mind boggling, and it's not fair. But still, you still got to go out and win. I mean, the Mets are, we keep talking about the Mets. Their payroll's huge too, and they can't get out of their own way.
Candy.
Really, really, do the Dodgers need more, more, more? Yes, the Dodgers payroll tax or their the tax because they're so far over is 180 million more than the payroll for, I think I saw a stat, more than like 10 different MLB payrolls. The thing that really will it cause a lockout? I think there's going to be a lockout, yes, because I think these groups are so far fetched, far between each other. Do I think that we should have a cap and a floor? Yes. Every other major league sport has it. Will it be easy to implement? Absolutely not. And obviously, the players, they don't want a cap. Oh, come on. If I can make, $700 million or whatever it is, they don't want, why would you want a cap? You never want a cap. But let's face it, the rest of us all have caps. I think it's going to get ugly. I don't know how long the lockout will be, but I think there will be one. And the problem with that is baseball will lose. The fans of baseball will lose out. And that's who I feel for. Those of us that are fans of the game, that like to watch the game. The players, they make enough money that they'll be fine if they miss a year's worth of salary. But it's the fans, the everyday people, it's the workers. We all have to think about, not only does this affect the baseball players and the coaches and the managers, but how about all those stadium workers that aren't going to have a paycheck because they don't have a job to go to as well?
Yeah, but the only problem is you're not going to have Cal Ripken, you're not going to have Mark McGuire, and you're not going to have Sammy Sosa bailing you out of this next one. This time, if it gets bad, it gets bad. So I disagree with you. I think it'll affect them a lot more than you think. I've got time for one more baseball history topic, and then we're going to close the show out with Barry and Warren's segment. We'll have Barry's viewpoint, Warren's fastball, and we'll go to baseball history on October 2nd, 1997. Baseball history, Todd Helton hit his first home run. I had an opportunity to interview Todd Helton out in the Cactus League. I'll tell you, he's a super nice guy, and to think that he played quarterback behind John Elway is surreal. So what are your thoughts, Barry, about Todd Helton and the type of career he had?
Well, he had a great career. I mean, I liked him as a player. I coached against him, and he was just a good player. His stats might have gotten a little bit juiced up because of Denver, but he was a very good player. He's a Hall of Fame quality player and a great citizen. A good guy off the field, and that to me I think is important. And he's just a good solid guy.
All right, Uncle Warren.
Yeah, he was a great player without question. And the one thing, even though the stats in Denver until they got the humidor were kind of misleading or out of normal, but I believe his road stats were pretty much close to his home stats. I mean, he was that good a hitter. There was no question. There wasn't much difference whether he was home or on the road. He was a great player, period. And great athlete. Like you said, he was a quarterback that I believe was the University of Tennessee. Was a great all around athlete. Punter on the football team also, I believe.
Andy.
Anybody that spends 17 years in the major leagues, you're doing something right. And he spent it all with one team, all with Colorado. That's got to be unheard of. I mean, how many players have played, and this is a stat that I don't have, I have to look it up maybe for next week. How many players have played 15 plus years with only one team?
Oh, that's it.
Or their whole career with only one team? I wonder how many are on that list. But um, yes, Warren, he played he went to the Volunteers. He was a letterman in football and baseball. He was a quarterback. He posted 2,772 total yards as a quarterback. In baseball, as a senior, he had a 655 batting average. He was Regional Player of the Year back in the day. He was named Gatorade Player of the Year for football and baseball in Tennessee. Drafted in the second round of the 1992 MLB draft. He did not sign, and he chose to attend college. Then he went to the University of Tennessee, played football and baseball. He backed up quarterback. He he was the backup to senior Jerry Colquitt and ahead of Peyton Manning, then as a true freshman. After he tore knee ligaments in the season opener at UCLA, Helton took over as the starter 3 weeks later against Mississippi. He suffered a knee injury and was replaced by Manning, who went on to break several records, as we all know. But yeah, to play that long with one team, yeah, Bigfoot. I get his stats in Colorado could be a little bit changed, but so could some of the other players in some of the ballparks that are small, or or a pitcher's ballpark. Anyways, great player. Yes, Scott, he was a good interview.
Well, Coors Field is Coors Field. It has a reputation for being what it is. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. But you know what? Like you say, he hit him everywhere. It really did. Go ahead, Candy.
How cool is it that he homered in his last final home game of his career too? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, everything about Todd Helton is kind of cool for sure.
Yeah.
All right, now we're at the point of the show where Barry, it's time for you to give me your viewpoint and give it the audience your viewpoint.
Well, we've talked about this already, the Skubal trade. I think that brings up the subject of are they waiting too long? Teams that are not going to be able to sign these superstar players, are they waiting too long? Waiting into the season. I think you're going to get more value for those guys if you know you cannot sign them, and you know you're going to be a borderline playoff team. Aren't you going to get more value? A guy like Skubal, I would like to see them get a number 3 or something like that pitcher that they could put in there right into their rotation and then get a couple prospects. The way they did it, I think they waited too long. I think a lot of teams need to take, look at that as a good example. If you're not going to be able to sign the guy, you got to go ahead and try to get the most value you can before the season starts.
Couldn't agree more. Tigers held out. He's trying to let me stay here so I can get to the World Series. Yeah, but then the Tigers get nothing. And you know what? I'm going to also agree with you another thing too, Barry. I think the big prospect out of that is that outfielder who obviously has those 5 tools. And we'll see what pitchers come up. And of course, don't forget the Tigers can go ahead, should we have a season, get free agent pitchers. That's going to not spend 40 and 50 million bucks to get these guys.
That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, just because you lose Skubal doesn't mean you're not going to get a quality 2 or 3 at least. Because I'll tell you another guy to watch out for is Troy Helton. This kid is starting to become an ace here, and he's got some pretty electric stuff as well. So watch out for Troy Helton. All right, Uncle Warren, give me your fastball.
Well, I looking at my phone all day today, it's mind-boggling. There were 42 trades today.
Yeah,
42 trades. There were 10 or 11 yesterday and 10 on Saturday. So that's a total of 63 trades in the middle of the season. So teams, I mean, it's going to be, people are going to sell scorecards at the ballpark like crazy because you don't know who the players are. I mean, it's amazing. And some of the trades blew me away. Boston got the catcher from Baltimore. I mean,
yeah.
I guess Baltimore's flat given up. That I thought that kid was going to be around forever. He was one of the top catchers in the game, and not only they got him, but his backup or a
Jake
triple A catcher.
Rogers.
They got two catchers in the trade, and the Tigers also traded Casey Mize. And the Brewers, what I saw, Brewers went after pitching like crazy. So they're happy with their offense, and and to win in the playoffs, it takes pitching and defense. So I mean, the Brewers are going about it again the right way. And I'm sure they did not have to give up much to get what they got. They got people that might be renting players, and a lot of these guys are being rented. So some teams aren't giving up as much as they really had to because they're renting the player for the rest of the season. But I think it's going to really make baseball interesting. It's going to be a real shift, and and now these guys come into new teams and they've got to fit into that clubhouse. So that's another thing, right? A lot of it's how the personalities mesh and how they play going forward. So to me, the season's going to be very interesting going down the road.
Yeah, and over the next few weeks, I'll get into more details with the trade. Obviously, I couldn't ignore the Skubal one this weekend, but next week I'll do that. Plus, I like a lot of the other historical stuff, what you guys are masterminds about talking about anyways. All right, Candy, go ahead.
Yeah, the trade deadline came and went with a flurry. Like, you just couldn't keep up with all of them. It'll be interesting to see, like Warren said, how the teams gel and how they play and how everybody fits. It'll also be interesting to see who stays healthy at the end of the year. So it's not just about gelling, but who stays healthy and hot near the end of the year.
Well, I'd say we've had a hot show and a really good one, I might add. My bias? No. I see how many people are popping in. The chat room's been active. Been a really good show tonight. All right, Barry, with that said, why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you? You'll be on next week. And by the way, you say you're not going to be on here the 17th. Is that correct?
We can't do the 17th. I'll be traveling, but I'll be here the next Monday night and most Monday nights with my good buddies and our team here. And I look forward to next Monday night.
Yeah, I have a feeling we may not do a show that 17th anyway, because Candy and I are thinking about going to Dunedin for the travel program. So, Uncle Warren, put that in your calendar on August 17th. You can have the night off. And Candy and I are just going to go to Dunedin and hit that part of the state. And keep in mind, that's a good segue, by the way, for when Candy takes over. Our travel channel is doing really well. We just came off a trip to Naples. So, no show on the 17th, but we'll have a big doozy next week. So, all right, Uncle Warren, please let them know how they can get a hold of you.
Can be seen here every Monday night with Scott, the Motor City Madmouth himself, and Candy and Bigfoot. We make quite a team, and I look forward to every Monday night, and I hope our listeners do too.
Well, we love having you two on. You guys are great. You really are. See, the thing about you, Uncle Warren and Barry, is because of how long you played and your longevity, you make my job as an executive producer really easy, because I could dive into the history of baseball with you two like no other. And that's one of the things I like about it. All right, well, a few trades here and there we don't mention on a given night, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't trade the history that we can talk about over that, because the trade stuff fills itself out over time. And that's what's so cool about the show every Monday night, except the 17th. All right, Candy, take us home.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved. Go get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. Audio link is also out there, and the link is on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights is baseball night and travel night. Tuesday nights is football. Wednesday nights, anything goes. Thursday nights is hockey this week, and then fire up. I do want to say, if you see the red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to the South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. QR code is up in the corner. But we also have another YouTube channel, Destination Discoveries Media Network. I'm going to put that QR code up there. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. There we go. Destination Discoveries Media Network, our travel channel where we talk all things travel. And yes, this past weekend we went to the beach, Naples to be exact. That is a picture. There's videos already up on our travel channel, so go check them out. Destination Discoveries Media Network. If you like to travel, you'll love that YouTube channel. Back to you, Scott.
All right, well done by you, Barry, as always. Warren, same thing. Well done by you, Candy.
Thank you.
Obviously, our quarterback getting all the research, and I just make sure I do what I have to do. Don't screw it up. And it's been a great day all the way around when you talk about the Miami Hurricanes media day as well. We got a lot accomplished, so look for the things on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. So with that said, as I'll give you a program reminder, nothing on the 17th, but we're going to have a show very stacked next week as well. So hope you can join us. But we have a lot of great programming ahead this week, so hope you can stay on with the network. We have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, doubleheader on Wednesday, doubleheader on Thursday, and who knows what we're doing over the weekend. I don't know, but we'll figure it out before long. So on behalf of Barry, Uncle Warren, Brewstar, and Candy, my name is Scott Morgan, North Motor City Man. I'll thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. I'll be curious to see how the trades play out, and what, even though some teams made moves, we'll know maybe we may find a playoff team or two along the way, even despite the trades that were borderline to begin with. That does it. See you next Monday, and I hope you enjoy the program the rest of the week. Good night, everybody. Bye now.